All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about AI-generated TikToks. And I've got to say, I am completely fascinated by this stuff. It's kind of mind-blowing to think about like scrolling through your TikTok feed and you can't even tell which videos are made by real people anymore.
It's incredible, right? I mean, I think it really does make you question what's real online these days, like what can we even trust?
For sure, for sure.
And the technology is just changing so rapidly, too. Like just a while ago, we were all blown away by those AI-generated pictures of the Pope wearing a puffer jacket.
I know, right?
But now AI is creating entire videos, which, I mean, that's a whole other level of complexity.
Absolutely. And speaking of complexity, this video dives right into the deep end with a story about this person on Reddit who bought, get this, NSFW photos, and they thought it was a real person.
Yeah, and it turned out they were completely AI-generated.
Right. I mean, just crazy.
It's a pretty stark example of just how convincing these AI creations are becoming, right? And like even the technical challenge of making these videos is huge. I mean, think about it. The AI has to keep every single frame like consistent so the movement looks natural.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So how do the developers, how do they overcome that hurdle? Like, what did they have to figure out?
So they've got this thing. It's called Stable Diffusion, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of it, but I'm not entirely sure like what it actually is, Can you kind of break that down for me?
Absolutely. Stable Diffusion, think of it as like an AI tool. It takes a description that you give it, and it transforms it into a super realistic image. It's like having an AI artist at your disposal, right? You can dream up anything you want, and it can create it for you. But videos aren't just single images, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a whole series of images all put together to create movement. So how do they use this Stable Diffusion thing to make videos?
Well, it's not quite as simple as just, running Stable Diffusion a bunch of times in a row. Actually, the earliest attempts at AI-generated videos, they were pretty glitchy. The AI just couldn't seem to, make the transitions between the frames very smooth. So developers had to come up with some clever techniques to overcome that.
So they had to teach the AI basically how to create a sequence of images that flow together naturally. What were some of those techniques?
So one way to think about it is like a flipbook, right? So instead of generating each frame, independently, they use AI to predict how the image should change from one frame to the next.
Oh,
Slightly, and this creates a much more fluid and realistic sense of motion.
that is pretty ingenious. It makes sense that predicting the next frame based on the one before it would smooth that transition out. And the video shows this example using Hatsune Miku, that virtual Japanese pop star. What's so special about that example?
So I think that's a great example because it highlights a major breakthrough in in how lifelike and visually appealing these AI-generated characters can be. Creators combine different AI tools, different techniques, and they basically created this whole pipeline for generating video. It's not just about the images themselves. It's about creating movements and expressions that just look incredibly human.
So it's like they're creating a virtual puppet and then using AI to bring it to life.
Precisely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But they're not just just making these virtual pop stars though.
You got it. The possibilities are pretty much endless. The video showed someone actually using AI to remaster the graphics of an old video game, and they made the characters look super, super realistic.
So they're basically using AI to like breathe new life into these old games.
Oh, you got it.
That's incredible. And think about the implications for like film. I mean, we could upscale classic movies to modern HD quality or even recreate lost footage. I mean, that's what I call movie magic.
Absolutely. And they're even pushing it further.
What do you mean?
There's this crazy idea of taking live action footage and turning it into anime.
Really? Is that even possible?
They showed a clip from the live action Cowboy Bebop series, and they converted it into anime. I mean, it's still early days, but some parts of it, like the hands and the face, looked incredibly realistic.
Wow. I mean, they're literally making real people look like anime characters. That's nuts. But this level of realism kind of brings up some pretty serious questions, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this technology definitely raises a lot of questions about the future of video creation and, what it means for different industries, like the influencer and modeling world, for example.
Yeah. Imagine anyone being able to create a hyper-realistic AI influencer that's like totally customizable.
Right.
I mean, what would that do to real people trying to make a living in those fields?
Yeah, it's a huge question mark. And would we even be able to tell the difference between a human creator and an AI creation? It could really change the way we understand authenticity online.
Totally, totally. I mean, it's almost like we're about to enter this whole new era of content online where, we have to be even more careful about what we believe. But maybe before we go too deep into the implications of all this, we should talk about like how these videos are actually made, right?
That's a good point. I mean, even though this technology is developing so fast, creating these videos is still, it's a very involved process. It takes a lot of time, resources, and technical expertise.
Yeah, the video even mentioned that even the best creators out there can only really release new videos every few days because it's so demanding.
Exactly. It's a lot more than just hitting a button and there you go. You have an instant viral video.
It's not as easy as it might seem then. So what are some of the biggest challenges for these creators?
Well, I think one of the main things is just the sheer computing power you need. These AI models, they need some serious horsepower to run. It's not something you can do on your average laptop.
Gotcha. So top of the line equipment. That makes sense considering the level of detail and the realism we're seeing.
Mhm.
But are there other hurdles besides just, the technical stuff?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to trial and error. There's no like one size fits all approach with this. So creators are kind of constantly experimenting with different techniques and different parameters to try and get the results that they want.
So there is a lot of like artistry involved, even though it's the AI that's doing the actual heavy lifting.
Exactly. It's almost like traditional animation in a way, where you still need that human with the creative vision to kind of guide the process and make something truly captivating.
That's a really interesting point. So even though AI is getting really good at this, there's still that human element that's crucial. But what happens when, this technology gets even easier to use?
Well, I think that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
As the tools get more accessible, more user-friendly, what happens to, the whole landscape of content creation?
Right. I mean, imagine a world where like anyone could create a hyper-realistic video just with the click of a button.
Yeah.
What would that mean for, the concept of originality?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it raises all sorts of really interesting questions, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
could we be headed towards a world where the internet's just flooded with AI-generated content?
Right.
And will we even be able to tell, what's human-made and what's created by AI?
It seems like we're just like scratching the surface of what's possible here, both, the good and the potentially concerning, right?
Totally.
Do you think there's a risk that people might start using this technology for, for less than noble purposes?
Oh, it's definitely something to be aware of. I mean, like any powerful tool, right? It can be misused. The potential for things like misinformation or even creating like fake videos that could harm someone's reputation is a real concern.
So alongside, the awe-inspiring potential of this technology, we also need to be cautious and responsible. I mean, it's almost like the early days of the internet, when we were all kind of figuring out how to navigate this new digital world.
Yeah, for sure. We need to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism, I think, and critical thinking. It's going to be more and more important to really question what we're seeing online, to consider the source of that content.
So how do we even begin to tackle these challenges, though? I mean, it seems like a massive undertaking.
It's complex, that's for sure. But I think it starts with education. The more people understand how this technology works, the better equipped they'll be to spot those potential red flags and make more informed judgments.
So media literacy is going to be like even more important than ever.
Absolutely.
We can't just blindly trust everything we see online anymore.
Exactly. It's about empowering people, giving them the knowledge and the skills to critically evaluate what they're seeing online, whether it's created by a human or by an AI.
Right. But what about the creators themselves? I mean, the ones that are actually, pushing the boundaries of this technology. I mean, the video made it clear that, they're putting in a ton of work. They're using some seriously high-end tech.
Oh, absolutely. It's important to acknowledge, the incredible creativity and the ingenuity that's driving this innovation. I mean, these creators are artists in their own right. They're exploring new mediums. They're pushing the limits of what's possible.
So it's not just about the technology. It's about the people behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the people who are actually shaping its evolution. Where do you see all of this heading in the future?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely going to be exciting. I think we can expect, even more mind-blowing advancements in the realism and the sophistication of these AI-generated videos. It's just a matter of time.
And as the technology evolves, I guess so too, will the ways that we interact with it and the questions that we need to be asking.
Yeah, for sure. The ethical considerations, the implications for all these different industries, even the very definition of creativity and authenticity, all of these are going to be ongoing conversations that we need to have as we move forward.
It's almost like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier,
Yeah.
just full of possibilities, but also full of challenges that we can't even like fully grasp yet.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, that's for sure. And it's up to us to shape the future of this technology in a way that, benefits both creators and consumers.
So while there's a lot to be cautious about, there's also a lot to be excited about, right? I mean, this feels like a major turning point in how we create and consume content. What do you think is the biggest takeaway for our listeners so far?
I think the key takeaway is to just stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious. This technology is evolving so rapidly, and the more we understand about it, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the changes that it brings.
Well said. All right, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the technical aspects, the creative potential, the ethical considerations surrounding all these AI-generated videos. But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to that point about just how realistic these videos are becoming. Just like mind-boggling, to think that we might get to a point where we can't tell the difference between a real person on video and an AI.
Yeah, no, it's a question that's got everyone thinking these days. Philosophers, scientists, everyone. It really makes you think about, like, what does it even mean to be human? How do we know what's real anymore?
It's not just, a philosophical question either, though, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this has some real implications for, like, everyday life. Think about journalism, advertising, even just our relationships with other people.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine watching the news and not knowing if the person delivering the news is, an actual person or some kind of AI thing,
Mhm.
or seeing an ad and it looks like a real person is endorsing this product, but it turns out it's just AI. Right.
Makes you question everything. And on a personal level, like what happens when we can have AI companions that, look and act like real people? What does that even mean for connection, for intimacy?
I don't think we have all the answers yet, but I do think it's important to be thinking about this stuff now while it's still relatively new. We need to be aware of the consequences and try to figure out how to navigate this whole thing responsibly.
It feels like we're at a crossroads here. We have this incredible technology that could change so many things about our lives. But we also have a responsibility to use it wisely.
I agree totally. It's really up to us, to make sure AI is used for good and doesn't end up, well, controlling us somehow.
So what can we do? I mean, as individuals, as a society, how do we make sure that AI stays a tool that serves us and doesn't manipulate us?
I think the first step is honestly awareness. The more
Huh.
people know about AI, like what it can do, what it can't do, the better we'll be able to make good decisions about how we develop it and how we use it.
Education is key then. We need to make AI less mysterious, less scary, help people understand it better.
Exactly. And along with that, we need to be talking openly and honestly about the ethical side of it. We need everyone's voices in these discussions, not just tech people, but ethicists, philosophers, social scientists, and everyday people too.
It's not just about the tech itself, but like how it fits into our lives, how we want to live with it. It's about, setting boundaries, setting guidelines, making sure it lines up with our values.
Well put. AI is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I'm left with a feeling of, I don't know, wonder and a little bit of caution, I guess. I mean, the possibilities are really endless, but, so are the potential problems.
It's a tough balance, but a necessary one. The future of AI is in our hands, and it's our job to make sure it's a good one.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the world of AI-generated videos. I hope you've learned something new about this technology and, all the questions it raises.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, the future's not something that just happens, it's something we create.
Great point to end on. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the digital world.